talking about Lamar. They just lost to the Steelers. I mean, you segued right into it. How confident are you that the Ravens can compete for a Super Bowl? They just lost their best tackle, Ronnie Stanley, for the year with an ankle injury. So how confident are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10?
Where's your confidence meter on the Ravens making the Super Bowl?
I'm at 5. Oh, making the Super Bowl. I'm at like 4. Yeah, I'm at like 4.
Just making the Super Bowl.
Or being Super Bowl contenders.
Just making
it. I'm at like a 4.4. 4.4. I think because the two teams they lost to are the other two teams that are the best teams in the AFC. So you can't, like, I can sit here and say, oh, I don't think they're going to make it because they choked against two. But it's the Steelers and the Chiefs. They lost to great teams. So it's like, but I don't think Ronald Stanley, I think that's going to be a huge loss.
Yeah.
Huge loss. And they still don't have receivers. Like, yeah, they got Dez, okay, but like we said before, we don't know what he's going to be. So they still going to have trouble. Lamar Jackson's still having struggles. People have figured him out. They're turning him into a pocket passer, and it's not looking really good for him. So I'm at like a 4.4 right now.
I'm going to say like a 6.
Ooh.
But on the lower, like I'm leaning more towards a 5
Say
than
5.
a 7.
Just say 5.
Just because I think that, like you mentioned, the only two teams that they've lost to are the two other competitors really in the AFC for a Super Bowl, in my opinion. You know, that's the 3. You could make an argument for the Titans as a 4th team that could compete for a Super Bowl.
Those would be the 4, though.
Those are the 4 teams. And I'm not going to hold that against them, but when you look at it, Lamar Jackson, I love him.
He has so much to say.
I love him. Lamar Jackson, I think, is a special talent. But, like, it's a problem when you say, and I was talking to one of my friends about this, and he said, I feel okay with Lamar Jackson beating me with his arm.
Yeah,
and that's a concern when you get into playoff football. Like, he's a special talent, but he's just a good quarterback when it comes down to, like,
no, I get what you're saying. I
you
agree.
hear what I'm saying? And I don't want this to be taken as Lamar slander because I love him. And he deserved the MVP last year. I think he's been great for the Ravens, the role they've been using him. But when it comes down to it, you're playing teams like the Chiefs and the Steelers right now. And, you know, you look back at the Super Bowl, you got to be able to make plays with your arm, make those great throws. And Lamar hasn't really shown the ability to do that consistently yet.
Before you go.
And it's concerning.
Before you go, I just want to say I feel like people made too much of a jump when they started saying he was so much better than Michael Vick. Because we've seen
crazy.
Michael Vick
That's
with
crazy.
his arm.
That's crazy.
The reason why Michael Vick was so praised because not only could he run, Lamar's a better runner, but Michael Vick with his arm was a dangerous player.
He's the closest thing I think we've seen to Michael Vick since
but
Michael
Mike
Vick,
with his
but
arm
he's not on
was-
that
yeah.
level. And the reason I say 6 to justify it after all that negative that I just said is we look at it and they're still, I think, the 3rd best contender for a Super Bowl in the AFC. Like, who else are they behind? The Chiefs, the Steelers.
They lost to the Titans. I'm still putting them behind the Titans.
Okay,
the
so
Titans last year?
even
Oh,
if
you
you
talking about the
put
playoffs.
even if you put them behind the Titans, they're the 4th contender in the AFC for a Super Bowl.
And that's debatable.
You know,
That's debatable.
I think I still, if you say you have the Ravens going to the Super Bowl from the AFC, I'm not going to call you crazy, but I'll give you a sideways look just because of everything that I just mentioned.
Oh, boy.
I'll call you crazy because they have 0 chance of making the Super Bowl.
Damn, 0?
This year. They have 0 chance. They're not going to make it. And people can pull back this video and see when they don't make it. When they get eliminated from the playoffs, they're probably destined for another disappointment. They went out and traded for Yannick Ngakoue. They went out and traded for Calais Campbell to shore up that run defense, but the problem isn't the defense. The problem is the offense, and they can't play it from behind. When a team stops the run and Lamar is forced to throw, they can't win games. And it's crazy because against the Steelers, they ran the ball really well, and they still couldn't win that game. Lamar threw a pick 6 very early in the game, and I was never an avid believer of Lamar Jackson. Of course, when he had this MVP season, a lot of people laughed at my take or whatever, but I've always been consistent, and I've said I don't think he's a great passer, and I don't think he can beat you with his arm. I wasn't impressed when they were just kind of manhandling teams last year, because whenever he went against a team that was a better team, a good defense, and had a good defense, he didn't play so well. And you talk about him winning the MVP. I don't think he should have won the MVP. I think Russell Wilson should have won the MVP.
Yeah, that's my cue.
When you have,
Did you see his numbers last year?
I don't care about the numbers.
Yo.
When you see, did you see the fourth quarter comebacks that Russell Wilson had in the game-winning drives?
How do you say you don't care about that?
Russell Wilson had more fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was a product of the run game, getting into the red zone.
He was the run game.
He was the run game. He was the outlet.
He had a 3K, 1K.
And then him just dumping it off 5 yards at the goal line, an easy touchdown. I mean, Mark Sanchez could do that. I guarantee you, if you give Mark Sanchez that type of leeway,
he's trolling.
He'd
He's
throw
trolling.
40
He's
touchdowns.
trolling. This is a troll. Yeah, this is a
we're
troll.
just being
He's
honest.
talking about Mark Sanchez.
Like,
he's trolling.
Hold on.
Yes, they use Lamar
This is gonna be the
Jackson's.
one.
They use Lamar Jackson's capabilities to maximize the system, but the system was ultimately Greg Roman. When he was with Colin Kaepernick in the 49ers, their run game was dominant. When he went to Buffalo with Tyrod Taylor as their number one quarterback, they were a top
They
5 run
scored
team.
3 points in a playoff game.
They faced Jacksonville, who was the number one defense that year. So
They still scored 3 points.
Yeah, but that was the number one. That defense was dominant.
Big Ben scored 30 on them.
That defense was dominant.
Ben scored 30
They
on
had
them.
faced them in the regular season, so they had a game plan for them. It's different. He had a top rushing attack with Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy. So am I gonna say that Lamar makes a system? No, he does not. Does he maximize the system to a certain extent? Yes, but he does not make the system. Greg Roman is the maker of that system.
That system last year was not the same as other systems that he had, created in different places.
Well, every other system that he created in different places, they were a top offense. Top 3.
What year was that with Tyrod?
Just look up Greg Roman's. Just look up Greg Roman coaching stats. And
there is not a quarterback in the NFL that you could have replaced Lamar Jackson with.
Maybe Kyler Murray.
Maybe Kyler.
Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. I can name a lot.
I don't think Russell Wilson could do it.
Oh wow.
He doesn't. It's a different system. It's a different system.
But that's Russell Wilson.
It would have had to have been.
If you're gonna say yes to Kyler Murray, you had to say yes to Russell.
It would have had to have been a different way.
That's true.
If you get what I'm saying, I'm not saying that Russell Wilson couldn't have been successful with that team.
So okay,
but the system would have been different if Russell Wilson was the quarterback.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Because River's searching it up, but I already have it up. This is Greg Roman's history as an offensive coordinator and where his team's ranked in rushing. 2016 in Buffalo, they ranked number 1. 2015 in Buffalo, they ranked number 1. 2013 in San Francisco, they ranked number 3. 2014 in San Fran, they ranked number 4. 2012 in San Fran, they ranked number 4. 2011 in San Fran, they ranked number 8. He never had a rushing offense that was outside of the top
hold
10.
on, because I wasn't looking up the coach. I wanted, because he brought up Tyrod Taylor, so I wanted to see if the stats Tyrod Taylor put, because he said anybody could do it. So I wanted to see if the stats Tyrod Taylor put up were
what are you
similar
talking about?
to Lamar Jackson. You said
no.
You just said you could throw Mark Sanchez in a system.
No, I did not say that. This is what I said. I said if you're at the goal line, only 5 yards away from scoring a touchdown, a lot of quarterbacks can make an easy read and just dump it off to a tight end to get the score.
But
they were getting to the goal line.
You know that Lamar Jackson had 19 touchdowns at the goal line in under like 10 yards.
Yes, and
that's not very impressive.
So how many of those guys can win MVP doing that though?
They were getting there.
Not a lot of guys have been in that situation.
They were getting to the goal line because of Lamar Jackson though, and those teams that you mentioned.
So we're gonna forget about Mark Ingram. We're gonna forget about Gus Edwards.
They were both good last year, but if you
great.
take them out of that system, they do not have nearly as good of a season as
Mark Ingram was great in New Orleans as well.
Yes, as a number 2 back to Alvin Kamara.
He was a number one.
Latavius Murray has been great in that role as well.
He was a number 2 back before Alvin Kamara got drafted. He got drafted to New Orleans being a number 1 back. He was a number 1 back.
And when did he have his best seasons with New Orleans? When he was with Alvin Kamara.
This is the thing. Alvin Kamara was always more of a receiving back. Ingram was that back that you'd give like 10 to 20 carries to.
I don't think that Mark Ingram is that feature back that everybody made him out to be.
But
he
you
was
see
great
Greg,
in that system.
But you see Greg Roman everywhere he's went, his rushing offenses have been top 10.
Yeah, and now
it's not just Lamar Jackson.
Well, hold on. Go back and look at the 49ers. Who did the 49ers have? Colin Kaepernick, who was known as a great rushing quarterback.
All right. And then he had Tyrod Taylor.
In Buffalo, who was also known as a pretty good rushing quarterback.
So you're telling me...
And he had LaShawn McCoy, who was at that point still a great running back.
So you're telling me that Tyrod Taylor, who's not even on the level in terms of talent as Lamar Jackson, can lead the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL 2 years in a row?
No, you're ignoring the fact that I just said he also had LaShawn McCoy, who was a great running back at that time.
So how come when you talk about Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy, when you talk about Tyrod Taylor, you mention LaShawn McCoy as his duo?
Because
you don't mention it with Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram.
Because at that point in time, I'm not totally disregarding.
You kind of totally disregarded Mark Ingram. You kind of just gave all the credit to Lamar.
Disregarding Mark Ingram.
Hold on. You know why I just ignored him. You know why I'm disregarding Mark Ingram? Because everybody that the Ravens have put at running back has been successful. Gus Edwards has been successful. J.K. Dobbins has been successful. I could go on. They've had multiple guys step into that running back role, and they've looked
good running backs? They're good running backs.
It's because they're playing.
They're good running backs.
If you put Gus Edwards on any other team in football, he is not nearly as successful as he's been with the Ravens.
That's a lie. You put him on the Rams or the 49ers, he'll be good. You put him on a great team that has a great rushing attack, he'll be fine. That uses a running back committee. Buffalo didn't use a running back committee that year.
Yes, but they had LaShawn McCoy, who was on a higher level than any running back the Ravens have this year or last year.
But they didn't have a running back committee. When you have a running back committee, the carries are going to be split. So, yeah, Mark Ingram's not going to have these eye-popping numbers.
I'm not looking at the numbers, though.
They still had a great year.
I'm talking about based on what I saw last year, LaShawn McCoy was at a higher level when he was in Buffalo, the first years that he was in Buffalo, than Mark Ingram was with the Ravens last year.
And I'm not disregarding that. But I'm just saying that's very biased of you to ignore Mark Ingram and give all the praise to Lamar. You kind of just gave all the praise to Lamar, and when I told you Tyrod Taylor had the number 1 rushing attack, you wanted to mention LaShawn McCoy. Because I said Greg Roman. Greg Roman is the system, everywhere he's went, he's had a top 10 rushing attack in the NFL.
The reason you see it as me giving no credit to Mark Ingram is because you're giving no credit to Lamar Jackson. When realistically,
I'm giving credit to Lamar Jackson, he's deserved way too much.
He was more valuable to that team.
How does an MVP deserve way too much credit?
He was more valuable to that team than any other player in football was to their team. You could make an argument for Russell Wilson. I'm not going to say that he wasn't
Russell
up
Wilson
there
was more valuable than Lamar Jackson last year.
I think that Russell Wilson was more replaceable on that Seahawks team than Lamar Jackson was to the Ravens.
What do you mean by that?
In that offense.
So people could step into Russell Wilson's offense and then take that team to the playoffs.
I think that there are more quarterbacks in the NFL that could have stepped in Russell Wilson's shoes last year than could have stepped in Lamar Jackson's shoes last year.
That's ridiculous. Lamar Jackson had a top 5 offensive line. Russell Wilson was working with the bottom 20 offensive line.
Who would you plug in for Lamar that can do what he did?
Well, if you plug in a quarterback that's a better thrower than Lamar, there's a lot of quarterbacks that can do something similar. Like Tyrod Taylor, Cam Newton come to mind, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson.
So Tyrod Taylor.
Russell Wilson has been the only quarterback as of late that's been put in a position where they don't have a great offensive line and they don't have a fantastic running game. Last year, their wide receiver core wasn't too great because DK hadn't ascended, right? Their tight end group was getting injured. They didn't have a Greg Olsen, and he took that team to the playoffs.
And they both had incredible seasons.
Russell Wilson carried the Seahawks. Lamar Jackson didn't carry the Ravens.
Lamar Jackson was that offense, though.
I'm so confused.
Like the offense revolved around Lamar Jackson and the way he played. It was unconventional. And that's the reason that I think he was more valuable because, and it sounds crazy, but when you think about it, Russell Wilson was running a more conventional offense in Seattle.
So you don't think that Greg Roman, if he was working with a quarterback that was a Tyrod Taylor, he wouldn't adjust the system?
Maybe, but like you said,
would it be as effective?
He dedicates his offense.
Would it be as effective as Lamar?
It wouldn't be as effective.
So then what are you saying then?
No, obviously it wouldn't be as effective, but Greg Roman has shown that in different places he's been, he's had a top 10 rushing attack.
But he's never had an MVP, though.
No, he's had a number 1 rushing attack 2 years in a row with Buffalo, with Tyrod Taylor being the quarterback.
Okay, now watch this.
So they were the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL.
Now, while you're saying that, I looked at Tyrod's number. He didn't have 1K rushing yards. Lamar had
So,
1,200 rushing yards.
What does
and 7 touchdowns.
Tyrod Taylor having 1K rushing yards have to do
because
with the offense rushing be number one back-to-back years in Buffalo?
Because you're not giving Lamar enough credit. Lamar was basically half of the rushing yards for that team that was number one in rushing. Tyrod Taylor
he has
wasn't.
a special skill set.
Tyrod Taylor wasn't. He carried the bulk of the offense, rushing and passing. He was them. You're not giving him credit.
You even said it. He maximized that Greg Roman offense.
No, yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
which is his value.
I said, yeah, I know his value is that. But back to the main question, they won't make the Super Bowl because they can't play from behind. Lamar Jackson hasn't shown that ability, and I think you would be crazy to say that he's more valuable than Russell Wilson.
I didn't say that.
He's not. You said it.
I'm not.
You said it.
You did.
I'm not saying he's a more valuable player overall. If we're drafting a quarterback to win us a Super Bowl this year, I'm taking either Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson with the first pick. And there's nothing.
Oh, I get what you were saying. I think what he's saying is you could plug in another quarterback.
You can't though.
That's what he's saying.
You can't though.
I think you could plug in Pat Mahomes. He could do the same thing.
Last season,
you can't.
Last season, and again, MVP is a regular season award. It's not based on the playoffs, which a lot of people like to rag on Lamar Jackson for because they got knocked out in the first round in their first round playoff game. It was really the second round. They were a 14-win team in the regular season, and it was because of the unconventional play style that they ran, and that was eventually their downfall in the playoffs. But I don't take that into consideration when judging his MVP season, because it's based on the regular season.
Yes, but the question is, can they win a Super Bowl? How confident are you in them winning Super Bowl? And me, it's a 0. They won't win a Super Bowl because Lamar Jackson hasn't ascended to be a great passer yet.
But that's a total side note.
And then when we talked about the rushing offense, yes, you can give the credit to Lamar, and I've said that he maximized Greg Roman's system. But let's not act like Greg Roman didn't have an elite rushing offensive scheme already before he met Lamar Jackson.
I'm not saying he didn't, but Lamar Jackson unlocked a new level to that.
A new level, and they became the number one rushing offense back-to-back years, right? Which they were in Buffalo.
But wait.
Nobody talked about that Buffalo offense
at all.
Like it was anything
special.
They
weren't the number one seed. They weren't blowing teams out. It wasn't the same. Like, it was a completely different thing.
Well, maybe it's because the Ravens had a better overall roster.
Or Lamar was just way better than Tyrod Taylor.
Well, if you look at the roster, their defense, the Ravens' defense was better than Buffalo's. Their offensive line was better than Buffalo's.
Buffalo's defense was pretty impressive, though.
That year?
Yeah.
What do you mean that year?
They were pretty good, bro.
What player did they have that year that you can name me off the top of my head?
A player,
okay,
but I know they were pretty good.
Okay,
they were pretty good defense.
Okay, so you can't name me a player.
They were still a pretty good defense.
Okay, but you can't name me a player.
It was still a pretty good defense.
I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying when I say that Lamar Jackson was more valuable last season to the Ravens than Russell Wilson was to the Seahawks. I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson is a more valuable player. If you're taking them pound for pound outside of their system, Russell Wilson is far and away the more valuable player. Him and Patrick Mahomes are on a different level of value than anybody else in the NFL right now. I think we can all agree on that. But when you look at it in the system last year, like you mentioned, Lamar Jackson took that offense to a level that we had almost never really seen before. Like, we had never seen an offense like the Ravens offense.
No, yeah, we've never seen a 3K passer and a 1K rusher. Yes, you're absolutely correct. But what I'm saying is that Greg Roman already had a great and elite offensive rushing system that a lot of opposing defenses couldn't figure out. Yes, Lamar Jackson maximized it, but he already had that in place. Like, I think they work in tandem. It's not like Lamar is here and Greg Roman is here. A lot of people want to give Lamar all the credit. You even disregarded Mark Ingram when you were talking about it. You did disregard Mark Ingram. You did disregard Mark Ingram. You said anybody could step into that situation and be a great runner. You said Gus Edwards.
A lot of people did.
You said Gus Edwards wouldn't be good anywhere else. You did say that.
And a lot of people did step into that situation. What is Justice Hill doing now? Justice Hill looked like a really good running back in the system. You have not heard his name once all season.
The 49ers don't have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, of course. We know that. And a lot of running backs step in their system like Jeff Wilson Jr., Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida. Why are you not talking about them being so replaceable? Maybe it's because great rushing attacks and great offensive minds like Greg Roman know how to utilize their players and and create blocking schemes that maximize where the running backs can run to.